Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today I want to review the Rode NTH-100. Now I bought this headphone with my own money because I'm really interested in Rode's first headphone. I actually use a Rode microphone, so that's kind of the reason why I'm also interested in their products and see how well they pair. And today I'm going to review this headphone from an audiophile perspective, but as well as does this headphone achieve its goal of being a studio headphone, right? That's its goal. And as a person who's reviewed and listened to basically like most headphones under the sun, I have a lot of experience reviewing headphones. And then I'm also going to review it using this. This is the iFi IDSD Signature Pro. A lot of different words, but basically this is like a $3,000 DAC amp. So I'm definitely maximizing this headphone. And yeah, I plan to compare this headphone to another headphone at the same price point, the Shure 840A. This also comes in at $150, and it's another studio headphone. So I'm gonna do a comparison so you guys get a feel of how this compares with other headphones around. And as always, please like and subscribe down below. It really helps me out. Comment if you have any questions about these headphones or anything. I would be happy to answer you. And yeah, so let's go into the build. All right, let's unbox the NTH-100. The box is nice. It's pretty standard for most products nowadays. Really nice. Just explains everything about it. We will talk about it while we open it instead of me just reading off the box. But yeah, it's a nice box that tells you all its features. Now let's get inside the product. So as most boxes nowadays, you take off the cover. This is actually interesting. Listen up. So I guess you just flick it up. That's a little bit different. Kind of opens up. Okay, I can feel this presentation. Even has this gigantic Rode logo on this bag. So I guess you get a carrying bag. Let's get through this. All right. We got the headphones out. Interesting shape. It's like a triangle type of thing-ish. I don't know, that's the only way I can describe it. It looks like a triangle. They're actually a lot smaller in the cups than I thought. I thought they looked bigger in the pictures. But yeah, this is the headphone with the Alcantara pads. Then we also get a cable in here. So the cable you can plug on each side depending on which one you want. And yeah, it seems to be terminated into 3.5 on both ends. And then here we get a 1/4-inch adapter, and then you also get little rings for basically identifying your cables. So that's kind of cool, especially when you have a lot of different devices that you need to plug in. This kind of helps you sort it out. Seems that is everything, but there's a little scanner. I guess you can scan the QR code if you have questions about your headphone. That's kind of cute. I've never seen that. It's also worth noting there's a rubber stamp in here that came in the bag that you kind of need to put into your headphone. Basically, on each side of your headphone, you can actually plug it in either left or right. But if you don't plug in the hole, it'll kind of leak out and you'll have like kind of worse kind of bass response. It'll be uneven between your left and right. So you gotta make sure you plug in this stopper inside the side that you're not plugged into. All right, so let's talk about the build and comfort of this headphone. So first of all, the build quality of this headphone is absolutely fantastic, especially for its price point. There might be plastic cups right here, but predominantly there's metals right here, metal on the band. So it really kind of makes this headphone very, I won't say indestructible, but very reliable. And then it's also made of Alcantara, so the top is very soft and plushy up top, and then the ear cups is also soft and plushy. And I love these ear cups. They feel very nice. And the padding on top is also nice. However, this headphone, because it's made of a lot more premium materials, metals, it's kind of heavier than other headphones. So this thing weighs around like 350 grams. And I could definitely feel the weight kind of push on my head a little bit, but it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just something to take note of. And the other thing I noticed is that these ear cups are a lot smaller than I thought they would be. So I don't really have big ears, so these headphones fit my ears fine, but if you have bigger ears, you might not fit inside of this ear cup. So that could be a downside for certain people, but I'm the lucky person that it fits. And then this yoke mechanism is, I think this is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. Like, essentially you can unlock it and you can kind of slide whichever length you want. So you kind of have infinite adjustment. But then the flip side is that it's kind of hard to kind of match your left and right because there's no like set things. So you kind of have to like guess, your left and right, and hopefully you get it like exactly the same. But you kind of set it once and you kind of forget about it forever. So I think this mechanism is really good as a whole. And it kind of allows you just like the perfect adjustment and then just set it and forget it. So overall, I do like the adjustment a lot. Especially with other headphones, I find it sometimes slipping out. And then lastly, I think this really interesting design. If you look at the metal, it's kind of like bent. So it's like this yoke goes down and then they like bent it to go sideways like this. And that's kind of interesting. Like, I've never seen a headphone that actually just literally bend the metal into this. But I think that kind of helps make this joint kind of reliable. Between this, if this was like fastened with like another plastic piece, it's probably just another point of failure. Doing this kind of gets rid of that point of failure, so that's kind of interesting. And then obviously there's kind of a cable that runs through here, so you kind of see these black cables that run the audio through. So I mean, these could be points of failure, but overall I think this headphone is built like one of the best I've seen at this price point, and that's really cool. And of course, this cable is, like I said earlier, you can plug it on either side. So that's cool if you want to use left or right. I just leave it on the left because that's kind of where most of my headphones are, and I'm kind of used to it that way. But yeah. The clamping force on this headphone is actually really none at all, really. I think the clamp sometimes just seems a little too loose for me, actually. It just kind of sits on your head very lightly and doesn't clamp hard. So in that respect, it is comfortable, but some people might, if you have a smaller head, might not have enough clamp. And overall, I think this headphone looks pretty good too. Like, I like the look of it. It's very unique design, and I appreciate how it stands out. Like, there's not many headphones kind of designed with this type of yoke, this mechanism to lock it, as well as just this Alcantara. It's just really makes this headphone stand out amongst the crowd of headphones, and it makes it have its own kind of unique look and take on how a headphone should be built. All right, so the question is, how does a Rode sound? So I would describe the Rode to sound pretty reference-like, with a few minor deviations that I'll talk about. And they're just really minor stuff. Like, there's no perfect headphone, obviously, right? So starting from the bass. So the bass of the Rode is really good, but it does lack a little bit in the sub bass. I feel like the sub bass needs a little bit more quantity. The Shure 840A has that extra sub bass boost that this headphone does not have. And then the bass overall is really clean and clear. It's also kind of punchy as well, so you kind of hear the bass, and it's a little bit exciting too, but the bass is definitely not boosted like other consumer headphones are. So it's pretty flat, I would say, until you get to the sub bass. Now moving on to the mid-range. So how does the mid-range perform? So I think when it comes to the mids, it's pretty much perfect to me. Like, I can't really pick out anything that I don't like about the mid-range, and that's really the compliment I can give to this headphone. I think even the Shure has a little bit of like a recession in the mid-range, so I think the Rode actually does the mid-range really, really well. And then going on to the treble, I think this is the part of this headphone that is probably the biggest like lack in a sense, but it's only in a small portion of the treble. So when it comes to kind of like the lower treble, I feel like this headphone does really well. But when you get to like the mid to like high treble, like this headphone, when you listen to like vocals, I can kind of hear a lot of its kind of lack of like air in it. It definitely doesn't have that upper treble emphasis that it kind of needs. So things sound a little bit muted on this headphone. And the other thing that I hear is that like when singers kind of sing to like higher and higher octaves as their voice gets like higher and higher, it doesn't really sound like it's really getting higher in this headphone. It sounds a little bit muted, like I said, and it gives us a kind of a little unnatural feeling to it. And the music sounds just a little bit like everyone pushed like the dynamic range down from like the top end. And that kind of gives us, like I said, kind of a undetailed oriented in the like the highest treble, but like I said, the lower treble of this headphone is really good. So I would say like when I listen to this for like male and female vocalists, like male vocalists sound pretty much perfect. They're really good. But when it comes to like the female voices on here, I think as they're, like I said, the range gets higher in their voices, it kind of just not emphasized enough in my opinion, where like the Shure definitely has a good balance of that, where this headphone is like bit lower, and then other headphones like Bear Dynamics I've tried in the past have kind of a high like treble boost up there, so they sound kind of sharp and like sibilant, which is very uncomfortable. So this headphone definitely is not that like the Bear Dynamics are, but it definitely is an area that I think could use some work on in like a future iteration. So let's talk about the sound stage and kind of like the imaging of this headphone. So something I noticed when like flipping back and forth between this headphone and the Shure, I just noticed that this headphone sounds not as like big or like wide. I think it maybe has something to do with how the ear cups are like smaller than the Shures. I think the Shure ear cups are just bigger, and it kind of creates this effect where the sound kind of comes around you more, versus this kind of feels like it's a little bit more focused. But besides that, I think the imaging, kind of like where sounds are coming from in this headphone is pretty decent. It comes from like a little bit more like in front of you than the Shure does, I think. So it's a little bit better in that sense. But overall, I think it does well. In conclusion, do I recommend the Rode headphone? I definitely do. I think as a headphone, just to use for like listening to music, it does really well. It is not like sibilant, it's not harsh at all. It's a very nice, comfortable experience. Like I was actually playing games with this, and I think this sound profile is like perfect for playing games, and I really just enjoyed it because like I could just listen to the sound for like hours and hours and not get tired of it. I think that's really good, and as well as it's just a very nice like reference tuning. However, as a studio headphone, I think this thing has some small quirks that you have to like understand about it, but I still think it does really well. Like I said, the sub bass in the lowest regions, maybe a little bit more emphasis, and at the very highest regions, the treble, I think this thing could do a little bit more emphasis in that region. But I think all the other regions of this headphone, it does it really well, and I think it still works really well as a studio headphone. And in the end, the build quality of this headphone is like beyond anything I've seen around this price point. Like I absolutely love the build, the headband, the Alcantara, the metal, and just the whole entire aesthetic, and as well as just these locking mechanisms are just really, really cool. I think that makes this headphone stand out a lot. And based off just the build alone, I probably would recommend this headphone, honestly, because it's that amazing to me. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe down below. It helps my videos out. I plan to do a more in-depth comparison between this headphone and the Shure 840A. If you guys are interested in that, subscribe to see that. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.